Hello everybody and welcome to Evil Ted Live here on twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. In this episode, I'm going to be doing a Nerf mod. Not just a Nerf mod. Woohoo! Star Wars Poe's Blaster from Last Jedi Nerf mod. I saw this at Target, and what really excited me about this gun were three things. Number one, pull the trigger. It lights up and makes sounds. Number two, when you pull it back, the hammer and cock it, it turns on a UV light which shoots out a glowing dark like a laser blast. Super cool. And number three, it's adult size. It's actually the size of the gun from the film. So my mission today is I'm going to make this gun as movie accurate as possible, make this into a really cool prop. So if you guys are ready to get started, I know I am, let's do it. All right, there it is. First of all, let's take this out of the wrapper. Well, that's all it took. Nice. Yeah, this is really cool. Well, the first thing off on this gun that I'm noticing, of course, we're definitely going to have to sand all these words off. And we have a lot of bondo holes. But the cool thing about this handle is already gray. In the movie prop, I think it was actually gray itself. So we're definitely going to mask this off when we go to paint it. And the lights. When we get the painting stage, we'll definitely mask these off. First things first, let's go ahead and get rid of these annoying letters with our nail file. Now, if you want to know where you get these, I have links for these below the video. And I like, when filing stuff up, I always like having a file and starting with flat, working your way down. Because you have a flat surface, so you don't want to, I've seen some people take a Dremel, but my fear is you're just going to go too deep, so it's best is to go a little bit at a time. So in order to fill these screw holes with bondo, one of the techniques I like to do is take a piece of paper. I'm going to roll this into a funnel. Like so. Tape it off. Great. And what I usually do is I take this, since I'm going to be pushing bondo through here, I can make the hole just a little bigger. There you go. So I'll make sure that bondo comes through. A good majority of the bondo I think I'm going to need. Well, I like to have this stuff go off pretty quickly, so I like to keep this bondo hot. All right, that's perfect. Now when I mix bondo, I like to smash it, kind of smash it into the palette you're working with and get it really thorough. You can stir it, but I like to smash into it and get it nice and even color. I can tell right now I probably mixed way too much, but it's fine. It's best to have more than less. I scoop it up on my stick. I go inside here, rub it up, squeeze it off. Got it? And now, just like cake frosting, so I start on the bottom and just let it fill all the way to the top. Therefore, I know I get this thoroughly filled. And I kick this bondo hot, so I have to work quickly. Got it? What I'm doing is the bondo is already starting to get hard, so I go back in with the X-ACTO blade very carefully. And just, if you guys look closely, I'm cutting it up. But what I'm doing, I'm not cutting too flush. I'm just cutting a majority of it off because I'm going to go back and sand it. All right? But this is still, it's a little green, and this is a great time to kind of do, because if you wait too long, the bondo gets really hard, and then you have to, the bondo, when it dries, sometimes it's harder than the plastic. And when you start to sand, it won't sand evenly because the bondo is actually harder than the plastic, and it's kind of a harder thing to get even. So I try to cut the majority of this stuff off first. Do my sanding. You can see these little divots. I really like these guys. And of course, the screw hole is right where that is. I filled it with bondo, but I don't want to lose it. So I got my round file. I'm just going to very carefully get in here and try to dig a bit of a trench in this. To kind of reproduce that divot. I don't want to lose that. Oh, it's getting there. Looking pretty good. All right, the bondo's all done. It's all patched up. I went through with my file. And of course, when you do this, it's a little bit rough, and bondo is still kind of porous. If I was to go and put primer and paint on this, you would still kind of see these guys. So to prevent them from showing up, we're going to start using some spot glazing putty, and this stuff is perfect for filling the real super fine holes. And the best stuff about this glazing putty is that they put it on really thin because it is air dried. So the thinner you put this on, the faster it will dry. I just realized something as I was focusing on the bondo screws. Do not forget the top of the toy guns. There's always a seam there. There's a seam here, seam in the bottom, and I completely forgot about that. So let's go back and knock these seams down on the. All right, I had some time to sit out in the sun. These are nice and dry. I got me a cup of water. I got my medium and my fine grit sanding sticks. So I'm going to proceed to do a little wet sanding. What? Perfect. Give everything a look over. This looks really great. The next step is I'm going to go and get this thing prepped for paint. I'm going to prime it. Now, I like the gray already. I think the actual prop gun was gray handle, so we're going to not paint on this. We're going to mask this off. Also, this lights up, and these are clear, so I do not want to paint over these either. And also, when you pull the trigger, it turns the UV light on, and I don't want to get any paint in here. So we're going to mask these all off. So how I'm going to do is we're going to take a piece of brass tubing I have. I'm going to cut me a foam plug to cover the barrel. I'm going to give me some scrap foam right here. Okay. Now, we have a foam plug. I can push this inside the barrel. All right, perfect. That's going to stay right there. And for these guys, I have some Tamiya tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this tape. Tell you what, I'm going to take my gloves off because I can't seem to get the tape in there. All right, for this procedure, I want to use a brand new blade. That bit was ruined, so I'm going to get a brand new blade. When you buy X-ACTO blades, just get them in bulk. They're great. They're definitely worth the investment. New blades. But very carefully. You just want to cut around where the lens is. There we go. Got it. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Now we got those masked off. We actually do the same technique. We're going to do this with the handle. I'm going to use a little bit of latest tape on here. All right. Everything's good. I'm ready to do some painting. So what I like to do is I do Bulldog Adhesion Promoter. This is a great stuff for sealing, making paint stick really well to plastic, except the polypropylene plastic that's kind of oil resistant, especially these weird smooth plastic parts. This is definitely a promoter, so I'm definitely going to spray this first, let it dry, and then hit it with some automotive primer. But let's start with getting a coat of Bulldog adhesion first. There it is. I went ahead and sprayed the Bulldog adhesion promoter on it first. Went back in and sprayed it with my Rust-oleum automotive primer. This stuff is great because it's a sandable filler. So when you spray it, it goes on pretty thick. It's nice. It's drying. So my next step is to let this dry for a little bit. I'm going to go back in and double check everything. But this looks really good. Looks pretty awesome. See, check out look at that. No screw holes. Love it. There it is. It's got the automotive primer. I went ahead and bulldogged it first, and I went with my Rust-oleum automotive primer. This is a sandable primer, spray primer. Covers a little finite details. It looks good. I got it on heavy coat on both sides. See, the screw holes are magically disappear. What our next step is, we'll let this dry completely. All right. There's the primer is completely dry, and of course I'm going to show you this is the side with the screw holes, and they're all magically gone. I had the primer is nice and dry, and what I do is it's auto filling primer, so I put it on pretty heavy. And my next step is I like to go back in. Now, primer is made to adhere to paint, so it's very porous. And so when you're working with something you're going to paint, you don't want to get any grease or oil or anything on your prop. So the best thing is when you're doing all this painting, make sure you put gloves on, because the oil from your skin will kind of mess with your gun too. So I went ahead and got some really super fine, it's like 000 fine steel wool. And what I do with the is I like to polish it. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the primer is very dull, matte finish. It's very porous and thick. So I'm gonna take some fine steel wool, and basically what I'm doing is I'm in here polishing it. Now, you can actually go back and sand it, but this technique I learned at the prop house, and this works really well. It's kind of a quick fix, but it polishes the primer. So therefore, I don't have to go back and wet sand it, because when you wet sand it, you actually kind of sometimes just break through the primer that you put on the prop. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep the primer on here. I just want to smooth it out so it doesn't interfere with the texture of my paint. Now, of course, by rubbing this with steel wool, you're going to build up a little bit of static electricity. If you guys can see right here, you can see all the little bit of fibers from the steel wool. And you definitely want to get this all off. Now, I have a compressor at the shop here. I can just blow this off. For all you people at home that don't have a compressor, I would just take a chip brush and put this over a garbage can and just brush it off. As you know, just lean over a can and brush all this fine steel wool, little fibers all over it before you start painting. So let's go ahead and just brush these guys off first. What my step is, we're going to paint this handle area silver and this tip silver. This all goes like a dark metallic, and this goes even darker. So what we're going to do is we're going to start masking. So I always found it's always best to start with the lightest color first. Okay. I think you go to automotive, just as long as you find a silver that looks good to you. So we're going to shake this up, and we're going to go ahead and hit this area. And we're not going to mask anything right now. I'm just going to focus on spray painting the area and the tip. So we'll do that first. There, as you guys can see, wow, okay. The silver's in here and the silver in the area. This is great. I'm going to speed this up and use my hair dryer. This is, of course, saran wrap, also better known as packing tape. You get this at any local hardware store. I love this stuff for masking because there's no resistance to it. There's no tape, so it won't pull it on your tape. But it's a great way to mask off stuff, a large portion of your area you don't want to get painted. So I'm going to do this handle first. Now our next step is I'm very delicately, tell you what, in order to work with the tape, I have to take my gloves off. I need my, of course I'm using my favorite masking tape of all, Tamiya tape. Now to cover the large majority of this area, this is a really fine, this is like a low tack. This is made for done for mostly for house paints. It's blue tape. It's done by 3M. It's a thin paper, and it's not bad, but it's good to have. But what I'm doing today with this, I'm just using it to cover the large majority. I still prefer the Tamiya right to the edges. This I'm going to cover majority of the space, but I'm not going to push down it so hard. And try to just very gently cover what's left. All right, this handle's been properly masked off. We're going to tackle the barrel. Let's go ahead and see what we can get away with this using plastic. I think I might just be able to wrap it and pull it tight and not put the tape on here at all, like this, and go right against the edge like this. All right, we have that masked off. Now I was wondering, I want to paint this something different, like a darker color. Same thing, I would just dust it with automotive, let that dry and mask this off, because it would be easier to mask this off than do the whole thing here. Or do I want to paint this all and then come back and do this separately with a brush? You know, let's go back and let's just do this with a brush. We'll paint this in with a brush. Now for the base body on this, we're gonna go ahead and paint this with the darker metallic. I'll be right back. All right, completely dry. Here's my favorite part. The whole plastic wrap, watch this. Ta-da! No tape. Always. Now, of course, when we bought the toy, the handle was actually originally gray, which I like that. So I kept the factory paint on the gun. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that tape off as well. Now for the front, we actually stuck a piece of foam for the barrel to clog it. Look at that, perfect. Now, I was able to put that so it prevents the UV light can still light up. Nice. This cylinder right here, I like it, but I'm going to make this kind of a dark. I'm going to do that with a brush. This is the Tamiya flat black. Now to give it a nice overall Star Wars age, I like to call it, I'm going to use some burnt sienna. I'm going to squirt a little bit into a cup, and I'm going to thin it down with some water. And how I go about aging, I get myself a chip brush, and I just kind of start blotting. And I'm not going to add any more. I'm just going to take what I already have on here and just keep chasing it. And move it around, because what it's doing is it is drying. I'm just spreading it all out. Yeah, what I'm just doing is basically just drying it with my brush. Just keep moving it back and forth, putting it nice and thin. Get the hair dryer, because where it's at right now I like, so I'm just going to go take a hair dryer to it. Call it done. Okay, I've looked at the silver barrel. There's a little too much of the rust color on it for my liking. So what you can do, being underneath here is automotive paint, and this is just acrylic, thinned down. I can wipe it off with alcohol. Just very gently, and this will take off the acrylic paint without messing up the paint underneath. See, it just takes it right off. And take out the masking. I have these, lift these guys right out. There, I just took the masking out. That's where the lights were. Now we're going to take some black and paint these slots. Let's do that. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of take and knock some of this aging down. Again, because this is the automotive paint that's super, much stronger than acrylic paints. So I'm going to take a little bit of alcohol on a paper towel and basically just wipe off some of the aging to kind of make it look a little more naturally weathered. It does, you can able to remove some of the aging. See? Oh wow, that took a lot off. You gotta be very careful. Don't want to use too much, just want to get the highlights. Got some Tamiya bright silver. Now our next step is going to break out the oil paints. I love this stuff. We're gonna use the mix up a blackish brown. I'm gonna start going in the deep cracks and crevices and kind of bring all the details kind of being hidden because you can't really see it in the paint. So when I work with oils, I always like to just work on a separate piece of cardboard and a little bit of brown and kind of mix these guys together. And the technique is we're just going to kind of go under the edges. I take a dry brush and kind of fade it around a little bit, like this. Take my paper towel. Yeah, see, that looks awesome. See, that looks used. I'm digging that. We get all done, all the aging, the oils, the paints, it's all done. The last little bit I want to do in this is that got some good old rub and buff. And I'm going to accent some areas with rub and buff. Watch this black come alive. See, wow, this is so much better. Do that. Now that's complete. There it is, Poe's gun from Star Wars. Again, this is a Nerf mod. I had an absolute blast making this. The thing that's so cool about this is that it still functions as a Nerf gun. It's got a UV light, glowing dart, makes sounds. Super. Again, guys, this is really great. You can definitely do this for your cosplay or for a photo shoot. If you're going to wear these at a con, I highly recommend you look at their weapons policy before you go. Sometimes I'm not really big keen on Nerf guns. Being at conventions, I don't know. Definitely want to check that out before you go. This is a lot of fun. This also look really good hanging on your wall. If this is your first time watching my video, don't forget to subscribe. And if you wonder where this has come, I do these live. This video is from one of my live streams on twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. I stream Mondays and Tuesdays from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Times. You can come over and hang out. I will talk to you live. If you have questions, I can interact with you live. And if you come on, there's great creative people. While you're on my website, don't forget to get on my mailing list. And don't forget, I have numerous patterns in my store for sale. And if you guys like what I'm doing, keep this machine going. Buy patterns, shop them Amazon links. Keep this machine going. I'm having an absolute blast doing this stuff for you. Thank you so much for watching. And I will catch you back next time right here on Evil Ted Live.